Hi, this is Zach Mayer with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Tuesday, the 15th of July. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which is very close to the predicted area, the top of that channel there at 90.45 it is now. So looking for that. We were looking for the top of the channel by the end of this month, and we've got 2 weeks to spare, so hopefully we will get there. The current position is that we have both the top of that channel there from the spring of last year, 1945, and then that rising or the sharper progression there, the red rising trend channel from May heading towards the 92.20 area, which is, I suppose, a target for the end of next month. On the downside, the old 89.08 peak from June and the floor of that channel around the same level is a potential support. Worst case, if there is a horrible tariff rug pull, would be back down to the 50-day line, but we haven't been at the 50-day line since way back at the beginning of May, so quite an achievement there for this market. Very, very strong indeed. I think the last time we were above the 50-day line was between January and March, so I suppose 2 months is a long time on those kind of situations. RSI just below overbought, but at the moment we're just looking for the breakout here and hoping that it will continue. Moving along to the DAX, where tariff issues and threats have played their part, but we've had another bounce for this market above the rising 50-day line, which tends to be a leading indicator on the upside. In fact, we haven't been below the 50-day line since the end of last month. What's interesting here is that the RSI is at 57, so perfect position for a fresh move to the upside. And with that bounce above that 50-day line, we're still looking for 25,000 by the end of this month. The Dow is and has been in that little range between 44 and 45,000. Looks like a mid-move consolidation ahead of a move to the upside. The rally started with an unfilled gap to the upside. The other point to note is that we're about a day or two away, probably 2 days away from a golden cross. The run up to a golden cross tends to be the strongest part of the cycle, and on that expectation that we'll have the golden cross, we would expect a big update to be materializing pretty soon, if only to try that 45,000 resistance area again. About 45,000, looking for the top of that channel there from May last year, as high as 47,500, which I suppose we'd be looking for by the end of next month. On the downside, old June resistance around 43,100, the favored destination if things go pear-shaped. On to Bitcoin, which where the prediction was that we could get to 125,000 by the end of this month. Obviously, we've pulled back from the best levels. 123, I think, was the peak there yesterday. On the downside, leaving the door open for a test of the old May record high, 112,000, but above that, still looking for 125,000, in fact 126,000, where the top of that channel is now by the end of this month. If you're a fan of Bitcoin, there may be 1 or 2 people out there. The next level up would be up to 143,000, maybe by the end of September, which is an April resistance line projection. But obviously, we've got to get through that 126 barrier first before we can get too excited. 50 and 200-day lines both rising. We're well above that 50-day line, so a retest of 100 or a test of 112,000 wouldn't be or go amiss. Moving on to gold, and here we're back in the channel. We had to widen it a bit, that channel there from the beginning of April, top of the channel there heading towards 3,800. That's probably a target for the end of next month at the earliest. Initial target here, 34.20, which is an April resistance line, and we're looking for that while we're above 32.90, which is the floor of that channel. Worst case now is another rug pull towards 3,200, but with the RSI still above neutral 50 and the 50-day line rising, we are still looking for 34.20, 34.40 in fact, as a target. Moving on to the stocks, and a requested stock and one that's risen today. In fact, it's risen after the request was made. Here we've got a break of the 50-day line there, bear trap rebound for ARC Minerals, and above a penny, looking for the top of that falling trend channel at 1.6 pence, hopefully by the end of next month. The key here is to have an end-of-day close above last month's resistance of 1.18 pence, which hopefully the shares will do, given that there's an uptrend line in the RSI window and that bullish divergence. Onto a stock which has really delivered the goods in the recent past. I would almost describe it as a whiplash rebound from April, gapping up at the end of last week as well through the 0.27 pence level. We've hit our second target there actually at 0.34 pence. Above that, looking for the upper parallel of that broadening triangle from back in August as high as 0.47 pence by the end of next month. Ideally, we stay above the initial July resistance there at 0.28. Whatever happens, there's also resistance there at 0.3, which obviously above that we'd be even more excited if we push through above that particular level. Onto Carclo, which is one of those situations which didn't really want to look up, but couldn't resist. Here you can see that we've had a gap to the upside. We also had a rebound above a rising 50-day line and a RSI rebound at neutral 50. The last time we had one of those, the shares rallied from 23p to the 50p zone or 49 pence zone. Current situation is we've got our initial target there at 55 pence. Above that, looking for the upper parallel of that rising trend channel from April last year as high as 80 pence. Maybe by the end of September. I suppose that's giving it quite a lot of time. Upside by we hold above that 50-day line at 41 pence. Another stock which I was delivering, kicking and screaming is Eco Animal Health, but that break of the 200-day line is significant. We haven't had that since last September, and even yesterday it looked as though this stock was turning around. Initial target here up to 86 pence, which we're looking for by the end of next month. But two major higher lows versus April. It looks as though things are moving, as well as the gap closed by signal, closing that gap at 64 pence from back in May. So we close above that today. That is a gap closed by signal on Eco Animal Health. Onto a stock where I was gushing yesterday, and I'm gushing a bit more today. Here we've broken at GCM Resources that main neckline resistance there at 5.3 pence. Above that, the suggestion yesterday, which might have been a bit rash, is that there's no resistance between 5.3 and basically 9 to 10 pence. And I think we might as well stick with that one and see how it goes. RSI 50 rebound there, 50 and 200-day moving averages both rising well, and obviously we've broken that March resistance at 5 pence on a closing end of day close basis. Only back below 5 pence really hurting the upside scenario, and ideally we stay above our target there, 5.3. On to Ilika, another one which was touch and go in terms of being included today, but here we've got a gap to the upside. We've had a sideways shuffle above a rising 50-day line, RSI 50 rebound. So looking for the shares quite simply to retest February resistance. If you look back, there's a resistance. It's possible to draw a resistance line projection from back in 2023, heading for 56 pence, and that's the best case scenario target for the end of next month, while we remain above the 50-day line, currently at 36 pence. On to the hero of the day, which has gone up, which is the merest mention of the word Pfizer. And here we've already hit our triangle target there at 0.55. I think I remember that the last placing was at 0.5, so people back on side there. Above the June peak at 0.52, looking rather simply for 0.67, which was the February peak. And looking for that, I suppose, current rate of progression by the end of this month, although maybe more rationally one would say it would be by the end of next month. If the shares do manage to blow the lights out and people get really excited, then the target here would be up to 0.84 by the end of next month. Ideally now we stay on the right side of that old June peak of 0.52 on an end of day close basis. The other point to note is that we've had an unfilled gap to the upside off the low, which tends to be a very strong signal. On to Predator, where we were reminded of the touchy-feely CEO that the company has, but we're also reminded that the shares have managed to build a base here and basically break recent resistance, June resistance at 3.9 pence. Above that, looking for up to 5.3 pence by the end of next month, or even sooner. Ideally, it would be by the end of this month, but let's give it a bit more time. And the 50-day line also rising, so it looks as though we are back in business there at Predator. Gap to fill there also near the top of that, near that resistance line there, 5.4 pence. On to Symphony, which has been called higher here from the lows. The shares building a base above our old target there at 11 pence. The new floor there appears to be 12 pence. But at least while we're above the old target 11 and a quarter pence, looking for 22 pence by the end of next month, which is the upper parallel of the resistance line there from back in April. So looking pretty punchy there on Symphony at the moment. Sunda is next, which is a difficult stock to chart, largely on the basis of that spike, which still remains on the chart. Here we've got a U-shaped turnaround or saucer-shaped turnaround. We're above the floor of the gap from last month at 0.03 pence, and above that, looking for a bit of progress, probably back up to the at least the old resistance from last month's peak, 0.042. But just a signal there with the V-shaped or U-shaped turnaround that we've had in recent days, that there is a lasting floor in the stock. RSI is also back above neutral 50 for the first time since the end of April. So that is something to be excited about if you are into technical matters. The initial resistance, obviously, the 50-day line, 0.036. Finishing off with a stock which is rather bigger than the type of stocks that we normally look at, but couldn't resist this one. Unfull gap to the upside through a rising 50-day line. We've also got the rising 200-day line at 264. We've also got a rising 50-day line, so we're in the run-up to a golden cross. A couple of bounces there near the neutral 50 level. So it does suggest that we could at least retest that spike that we had back in March at £3.20 while we're above the 200-day line at 267. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.